We do ask that you please keep your questions regarding the content that we're giving. So, meaning if you could keep your questions in relationship to the portal questions and how it's being used, rather than asking questions about course content, that would be appreciated. If you do have questions about course content or how to create course content, or if your content will meet a specific mandatory learning objective, you can certainly reach out to us via email or a phone call. We're happy to help. With that being said, we have a ton to get through today. I'm going to go ahead and give it to my coworkers, Andy Berth and Sarah Zastrow, to get started.
All right. Good morning, everybody. And am I coming through here, Michelle? All right. Excellent. Sorry, just a couple things I need to work on to get. Looks like I'm having a little bit of issues with the mic. This is a recorded session. We want to put this out for everybody on our website if they're not able to make this training session. So just so everyone knows that this session is recorded. That being said, let's go ahead and we'll get started here in just a second as I click over here to share my screen. Okay. All right, so getting started on the continuing education portal. It's been over a year now for us to get this going. A few setbacks along the way, getting some bugs worked out. Doesn't mean that we're going to find more, as happens with all things technology related. But what we have here, we're proud to offer to help streamline this process. Moving on, in the next page, if you have your guide and you want to follow along, I'm not going to read everything verbatim, and I'm going to do some live demonstrations here with some of these things. So we'll be cutting over back and forth. But the next page is table of contents. It's all clickable. You should be able to navigate to what it is that you're looking for within the guide itself. But getting to the introduction on the portal. So the portal is designed to allow multiple tasks to be performed all within one place, and to eliminate the email process that we currently have. As a course sponsor, you're going to be able to draft and submit course conference applications using a standardized format, which we will see when we get to the course application. You'll be able to view the status of submitted courses and conference application. So once you've submitted them, you'll get confirmation that it has been submitted, and then get an update on when it's been approved or it's been returned. You'll be able to communicate with Post on submitted applications. There's a messaging feature to send questions. Post can use that feature, or we'll be using that feature if we return a course for corrections. You'll be able to view an index of all the courses and conferences approved under your sponsor account. All of the previously approved courses, if you're an established sponsor, they've all been migrated over. So you'll be able to see everything that has previously been approved by Post, as well as anything that gets approved through the portal. You'll be able to submit affidavits of attendance, and for law enforcement agencies, submit the annual agency training reimbursement, and that will be next year around this time after the end of the fiscal year. Right now, this year, we are still using the email and paper method, but next year that will be an option. In order to access the CEP. It's all done through the Minnesota e-licensing. So you'll need a Minnesota e-licensing account in order to log in. And the primary contact, that's the person that's designated, and just one person is designated as the primary contact or the licensee for that account. They're able to log in through e-licensing, get into the CEP, and then they can assign other delegated users who can do the same functions that they are able to do, except for certain tasks, which we'll get to when we get to the dashboard management. Down here, it's just kind of outlining multiple sponsor accounts. If this is going to be most users here, is they'll have one e-license login with this email, and they'll have one sponsor account. If you have different sponsor accounts, but they use the same email, you'll be able to log in a single license using a single license. Otherwise, if you are a delegate or a primary contact for multiple sponsor accounts, you'll see here that you'll have to have a different email to log into sponsor account 1 or sponsor account 2, 3, etc. They will not cross-populate in between the two. And if you have any questions on that, if you do have multiple sponsor accounts, you can certainly reach out to us. Some key terms are listed here, and ones that that we use at Post and that you should be familiar with if you are a sponsor. The affidavit of attendance, the applicant is the person that is submitting the course or conference for evaluation. The conference is a continuing education event approved by Post and valid from 1 year for the date of approval, and a course is approved by Post and valid for 3 years. Other terms to note that you'll see later on when we get to affidavits is a CSV file, is a comma separated by values file format that uses plain text. This is the only type of file that is accepted for those affidavits, which we will get to. The rest of these you should be familiar with or we'll touch on later on, but these are included here for your reference within the guide. So to start out, Minnesota e-licensing login and new user registration. And for this slide here, I'm actually going to quick cut over. So this is the Post homepage. And from the Post homepage, you can access or start to access Minnesota e-licensing down here under your Post account. You can click either of these links here. They both take you to the same place. And here you're going to utilize the login. If you're already an established user, this is where you'll log in. Otherwise, if you're not, you'll click on the register here and create your account with the first name, last name, a phone number, the email address that you'll be using, your password, verify that you are human, and then create your account. Otherwise, for all general users, it's just logging in via Minnesota e-licensing. This is going to be the web address that you're going to want to bookmark, is this Minnesota or Minute Services. Add that to your bookmarks. This is where you're going to log in each time. You won't log in to the portal. This is the gateway in order to get into the portal. So we've gone over the new user registration. If you are a new user, there are some specifics here. As you continue through there, you will reach a couple drop downs. In one of the drop down boxes, you're doing business with the Peace Officer Standards and Training Board. And the next one is you're going to select continuing education sponsor, non-LEA. Now this doesn't matter if you are a licensed peace officer or not. If you're not within the system, you want to do the non-LEA. This LEA is for agencies and who have assigned delegates, or people who are, or officers who are logging in and creating an account with Post for the first time in order to access their dashboard. So you always want to use this continuing education sponsor, non-LEA. The primary contacts, if you have claimed your sponsor license, the license will populate on your dashboard. As we can see here, if we zoom in, once you log in, you'll see a license populated with the sponsor number, the type, it's a General C sponsor, active, and the licensee, who that licensee, the primary contact is. If you have not claimed your sponsor license, no license is going to appear on your dashboard here. For delegates, if a primary contact is assigned to you, you're also going to see that dashboard populated with a license. Otherwise, if you do not see it and you're a delegate, you'll have to first be logged in or have a Minnesota e-licensing, be logged or have an account with Minnesota e-licensing. Once you do that, the primary contact will be able to add you, and then you'll see your dashboard populated with the license. We'll get to that eventually here as we get to dashboard management. Claiming a sponsor license. So when claiming a sponsor license, it's a one-time process that applies only to sponsors approved by Post prior to the launch of the CE portal. Anybody who's becomes a new sponsor, the license becomes a new sponsor that we've approved through the portal, will that license will automatically already be claimed. But for other agencies that have not claimed it, you're going to have to go in, and it can only be done by the primary contact. And the process, it's on the main page here. Once you log in, we can get here. So this is once I've logged into e-licensing, the sponsor accounts here. On the bottom is claim your continuing education sponsor license. That's where you're going to find it there at the bottom of the page. And going through that, you'll need to know your sponsor number, which is the first 5 numbers of any course or conference approval. If you don't have access to a course approval, you can certainly, or you don't know it, you can certainly contact Post by email or phone. And that's simple for us to look that up and get that to you. You'll enter your sponsor number. And once you do that, you want to verify that the sponsor name and the sponsor number match. So that number that you've entered, if the sponsor name is incorrect, you want to stop this process and contact Post without moving on. Otherwise, a bunch of wires will get crossed. We'll try to figure out what it is that's the issue. But if it is correct, you go ahead and click or select yes and click next. And then you're going to be asked to enter an access code. That access code is going to be sent to the primary contact on that sponsor account that's listed with Post. And that'll be listed here. Again, if that's incorrect, or it's someone that is no longer with the agency or is no longer with your organization, you're going to want to contact Post so that we can get the correct person listed. For LEAs, the default is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer. And for other organizations, it is whomever first applied for the account. But you'll get that access code by email, you'll enter it, and then you'll click finish, and you'll have successfully claimed your sponsor license. So becoming a new continuing education sponsor, if you're not already a sponsor with Post, you'll need to first log into Minnesota e-licensing, get that account if you don't have one. And on that page that you've logged into, this would not be populated with the dashboard or applications. But right above claim your continuing education sponsor license is become a continuing education sponsor. And in order to do that, you'll just click on that hyperlink. You'll click start an application. You'll complete the sponsor information and application information fields. You'll need to upload your classroom discrimination policy in PDF format. That's much preferred over Word or anything else. So please use PDF when and wherever possible. And if you have any questions on the classroom discrimination policy or what that is, there is information on the post board website. It just needs to, for sure, meet everything established in Minnesota rule. Yeah, and there's links on the website in order to assist you with that, or certainly contact post. You'll provide a signature by typing your name. You'll click submit. There's a comments area, but if you want to add something, you certainly can, but it's not a required field. You'll receive confirmation that your application has been submitted. You'll receive a confirmation number, which is an APP or application number. This is not your sponsor license number. This is just a reference number for you and for post in order for us to review your sponsor application. From this here, you can click the button to view application, or you can click back to license dashboard, which is found at the top of the page, and then patiently wait while post views your application. You'll be able to see that on your dashboard that it's in progress. And once we've reviewed your sponsor application, you'll receive an email, and on your dashboard as well, it will show that your status is now active and with you listed as the test sponsor. So the next section is the continuing education portal and the portal access and dashboard overview. We'll pause here for any questions that anyone has on Minnesota e-licensing or primary contacts or anything else that we've gone over.
I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we can move on.
Second here, I'm gonna make sure that my volume's turned down so we don't have any feedback here. If everyone doesn't mind just giving me a second. All right, so the continuing education portal access and dashboard overview. Again, portal access is through Minnesota e-licensing. You'll locate your sponsor license on the dashboard. And over here under actions, there's a drop down. It's only there's no other options other than go to sponsor license. So you go ahead and click that go button. On the dashboard, which we'll get to here, and this isn't what it looks like, but it's, you'll have several options for you to interact with or actions that can be performed. There's the course index, and I realize that it says courses index, and it drives me nuts, but we're going to go ahead and get that changed at some point, but it's a low priority fix while we got this up and running. But the course index displays all approved courses for the sponsor account and provides key information for each course. The course applications tab displays important information, rules, and instructions on course conference submission. It's the starting point for new course conference application, and it displays an index of all the courses conference applications that are in a draft mode, have been submitted, or they've been returned by post. So anything that hasn't been approved is going to populate on here, something that's in progress or is being drafted. The affidavits of attendance page, which is a section that Sarah will take us through towards the end of this presentation. it provides the sponsors the ability to self-submit affidavits of attendance and could be performed manually or via bulk upload. The sponsor info tab, which is going to be the first thing that we go through after this here, it contains actions and information pertaining to the sponsor account where you can update sponsor information and manage delegates, shows the primary contact information, shows the sponsor classification. Any actions as far as updating the sponsor account can only be performed by the primary contact. The sponsor requirements tab is a information tab. It provides information on course sponsor requirements established by Minnesota rule. Those are spelled out there and links are provided in order for you to view those on the web. So updating sponsor information. Again, only the primary contact can perform this action, and currently only the address of the sponsor can be edited. So performing this, and we'll go over a few of these. It's a little easier to do it live. So we'll go in here. So now I've logged into my CEP portal. This is the dashboard page. We have the course index, course application, affidavits of attendance, sponsor info, and sponsor requirements. So we'll go to sponsor info. And the first thing, the action drop down here is to update sponsor information. Select that and you'll click next. And as previously stated, the only thing that can be updated here is the address. So if your agency, organization, or yourself have moved, you can update the address here. We'll keep everything the same, but if you updated it, you would just click next, and that would complete that action. The next action that you can perform is adding a new delegate. And again, only the primary contact can perform this action. And in order to do that, click back over here. We're going to manage delegates under action, and we'll click next. What would you like to do today? We're going to add a new delegate. In order for that person to be accepted, they first have to, as previously stated, they first have to have an account within Minnesota e-licensing. That's where it's going to, the system's going to look up and find that person within the system. So here we're going to add, here's the email address of the individual that I want to add. Put that in there. We'll click next. Now it's going to ask what actions would you like this delegate to perform, and it lists the delegate right here. The only, as of right now, all continuing education delegates will be able to manage courses, course applications, and affidavit submissions. One of the enhancements that we want to make is to allow you to actually pick what you want this person to do. If you want someone to only submit affidavits but not apply for courses, etc., that's something that we want to parcel out. However, currently they're able to do everything here. So the option, really the only option here is yes. If you click no, it's just going to circle you back. If you decide you don't want this person to do this, you can go ahead and hit previous. But we do want to add Sarah here. So we'll click next. Sarah Zastro has been added as a delegate. And we'll click finish. And you'll see down here under your delegates, now there's two of two items. There's the post user, which is me, the primary, and then Sarah has been added as a delegate. Editing delegate permissions. This will be an option, and we'll skip through this part because we just went over it, but this will be, there are no permissions to edit. as of right now. But in the future, you'll be able to go in and edit these delegate permissions and change them to what you would like the person to do. To remove a delegate, or that perhaps that person has left your agency or they just weren't able to perform the actions that you wanted them to do, and you want to remove them as a delegate. Again, we're going to manage delegates. Click next. We're going to remove an existing delegate. Select the delegate to remove. So if I had several, they would be listed here. Sarah is my only delegate, so I'm going to select her. You'll click next. It's going to ask again for confirmation. You want to remove this person as a delegate. Click yes and next. Notification that she has been removed, and we'll click finish. This isn't a permanent thing. If you want to re-add a person as a delegate, you just do the same process we did for adding delegates. So it's not an end all be all, but if you need to manage who can do what and remove them, that's how that is performed. All right, we'll pause there for any questions on delegates or primary contacts, if there are any.
Sorry, I had asked in the last section in the chat, and I apologize if you're repeating information, I just want to be sure. I was approved to be a course sponsor before the online portal, so I'm assuming I have to claim the license online, correct?
All right, I'm going to move along here. Oh, do we have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. I have my speaker down, so.
The question is, I was approved for a course sponsor before the online portal, but I still need to claim online, correct? Yes. Also, is the course sponsor number in the letter of approval? Yes, it's the first 5 numbers before the dash. And then the next question, Andy, is, can a delegate start the license claim process, or does the chief have to handle all of it?
The chief can handle all of it, or if the chief would like to assign someone else as the primary contact, the chief will need to contact Post with an email from the organization, from their agency, stating that they want to have this person, this certain person added as the primary contact, and removing the chief from the primary contact role.
Any other questions? I don't see any.
Okay. All right. So we'll move along here to the course conference application overview. Some design and important points. So the CEP is designed to guide the user, you, through the 5 main stages of the course conference application process: the submission title and type, categories and credits, course content, instructor qualifications, and then reviewing and submitting your application. Important points, and I'm going to go through these because these are critical. Post is unable to provide credits for partial attendance of courses and conferences. Our system does not allow for that to happen. To receive the Post continuing education credits approved for a course conference, participants must attend all approved hours. This applies to courses covering general CE topics, mandatory learning objectives, or a combination thereof. If a participant is unable to attend all hours of a course conference, we encourage that participant or the participant's agency to contact and work with the sponsor to coordinate a resolution for the hours not attended by the participant. It's going to be very beneficial if you want to offer this option, especially because concerned with peace officers here and peace officer continuing education credits. And if an officer is signed up for a course or a conference that's a multi-day, say it's a 4-day course, they attend days 1 and 2, but are then called away because of an incident or they're needed at their agency, they're not able to attend days 3 and 4. If that course is a full, approved as just one application, then we can't provide any credits for that course until it's completely satisfied, until they've attended all of those remaining hours. The other option for multi-day courses, which we previously had and we are still offering, is an option to submit each day of the course conference separately. So day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 would be different applications that you would go through within the portal, submit, and get approval for. We ask, and it's going to be easier for you and for us, when you need to track or if someone needs to refer to your course, to please title your course with a day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, etc. After the submission title. It just makes things a whole lot easier instead of having to dig through perhaps what the course content was or what it was approved for. It streamlines the whole process if you use that identifier on that. Establish and rule courses submitted for approval must be law enforcement related. They must be based on the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to be a peace officer and meet a law enforcement educational need. So tactical flower arrangement is not going to be something that's approved by post. It needs to be obviously related to the law enforcement field and be necessary for law enforcement officers to succeed and receive the education needed in their field. Courses and conferences must be submitted at least 10 days before the commencement of the course conference. This is established in rule. We encourage you, the further out you can get, the better. But at a minimum, at least 10 days before the commencement of the course conference. And days are defined as business days, which includes weekends and holidays. There is no reapproval process for courses and conferences that are expired or expiring. This touches back to a previous process that Post had even prior to the new application that was created and sent out in 2023. On that one, for general education courses, sponsors need only add the course number and affirm that it was not a mandatory learning objective course. And it was pretty much rubber stamped as reapproved. The reason we're no longer offering that is because none of us would know exactly what that course content is. Post doesn't retain course content. We don't retain instructor qualifications. So for us to rubber stamp a course that we don't know what the course content contained is problematic, especially with the changes, legislative changes on what course content can be included. So we no longer offer that option. All previously approved courses or conferences, they need to be submitted to Post as new applications. So this includes expired or expiring courses. And for expiring courses, we encourage you to get that in before the course actually expires, perhaps a month or 2 before, in order to make sure that there is no lapse, because we can't, if you instruct that course and the course is expired, we can't offer credits on expired courses. And this is a whole lot to digest. So any questions on any of these important points that we just went over? Good. The types of applications that you're going to be able to submit General continuing education. This type of application must meet those three basic requirements as previously outlined. Some examples of these are patrol operations, canine courses, criminal law, human trafficking, EMS training, anything that isn't specifically covered in any of the mandatory learning objectives. Which brings us to mandatory learning objectives. Again, we have there are 9 now mandatory learning objective categories: autism, crisis intervention, mental illness crises, recognizing, valuing community diversity and cultural differences to include implicit bias, conflict management and mediation, officer wellness, emergency vehicle operations, crimes motivated by bias, in-service use of force and firearms, and the school resource officer, which is only applicable to peace officers assigned to work as a school resource officer. So this is not part of the 16 continuing education credits required for renewal, but is required for school resource officers. And then this isn't the general continuing education and mandatory learning objective combination is included because you can create a course that includes both general and mandatory learning objectives within it, similar to before. So these are the 3 main types of applications that you're able to submit. Prohibited content. The post will not approve a continuing education course containing any of the following content, and this is established by legislative authority. Warrior style training, which is under MSS 626.8434. A link is there for you to peruse. Certain restraints limitations is under MSS 609.06.3. One caveat here is post will only approve courses, conferences with this content if the submitted lesson plan clearly articulates that these restraints are to be used only if deadly force is authorized under state statute. And then excited delirium, training on the detection or use of the term excited delirium or any other analogs, which are listed under statute 626.8437. We cannot approve anything with that term or any analogous terms. Okay, so as far as terminology and the drafting process, for the remainder in this guide, because it gets lengthy and in order to save space, the word course refers to both courses and conferences. So anywhere you see course, it also means conferences as well. The words application, submission, they're used synonymously. The terms approval process, application process, and submission process are also used synonymously. General continuing education is either abbreviated as GCE or referred to as General CE where it's necessary. And mandatory learning objectives is either abbreviated as MLO or referred to as mandatory learning where necessary. So the drafting process, as we look over here on this diagram, there's mandatory learning and general continuing education. And they both are the same, but diverge at the point where you enter the category of your course. So the application title and type are all the same. You get to add learning categories and credits. If you've selected a category that is a general continuing education category, you'll be adding course content, you'll be adding instructor qualifications, and then you'll be reviewing and submitting that course. If you've selected a mandatory learning objective, then it'll take you through adding learning and performance objectives, adding your course content, adding instructor qualifications, adding the required learning assessment, and then reviewing and submitting your course. One caveat here at the bottom to remember that unsubmitted applications will be canceled if they are not submitted within 30 calendar days. So within your portal or your portal dashboard and on that under applications, anything that's drafted or in draft status, needs to be finished within 30 days or the system is going to go ahead and remove that. So that's important to note that once you've started it, you want to complete that within 30 calendar days. All right, so we are going to get into actually doing an application and walking through that process. But again, I want to pause for any questions on the types of applications, prohibited content, or terminology in the drafting process.
If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. At this point, I don't see any, Andy, so I think we can move on.
Okay. All right. So starting and changing a new application. And for this, I'm going to, if you bear with me, I'm going to pull up my dashboard here. And we want to go under the course applications tab. This is the same notice that you saw under within the important points. This is all the same information. What's important to note here for instructions and to help you go through the process a little easier is to have the following documents and information prepared prior to beginning a new application. And probably best to do this on Microsoft Word or whatever your word processing program of choice is, to write those goals and objectives, have your detailed lesson plan already written, have your course timeline if ready, if the instruction time exceeds 4 hours, and have those instructor qualifications, certificates, and or resumes, or also CVs in PDF or doc format, preferably in PDF format. And for mandatory learning objective courses, know what your planned learning assessment is for that course. The application is saved at each point in the process where a save or save and next button is available. If you need to stop at all during the submission process, make sure you select back to draft from the drop-down menu. And as previously stated, there's a 30-day time limit to complete and submit the application to post. Otherwise, it will be deleted from the system. Additionally, any application that post returns to the applicant for corrections must be resolved and resubmitted to post within 30 days, or it will be canceled and deleted from the system. This is in order to keep all of our records clean, keep everything on your dashboard clean, and not have a lot of CS or course submission types all over. That can get confusing. So that's why that process is in place. Before we get started on to next, to start that application, you can see here that you'll have your course applications listed. We have sponsor courses that are pending. That one is pending review by post. We have a sample course that is drafted. And these have been paused. I know this is back in March, but these have been paused. Otherwise, they would have been deleted out of the system, but I was able to do a little wizardry on the back end to make sure that that wasn't deleted in order to populate this here. But I have a lot of drafts going, and this was all within our testing phase, but this is just kind of a demonstration of what your dashboard would look like in the working phase for drafting courses or courses that have been approved or courses that have been returned for correction. But able to start a new course after we've read through these notices and instructions, you just click the next button here. Here we're going to enter our applicant information. You'll enter the phone number. If this is not the correct phone number, go ahead and enter one. This will be saved, so each time you log back in, whatever number you had entered here, it'll repopulate. If you have an extension or an alternate phone number or alternate phone number extension you want to include, you can certainly do that. For this one, now we move down to the course information. We're going to add our course or conference title. And then we're going to select our type, whether it's a course or a conference. Again, remember, a course is valid for 3 years from the date of approval, whereas a conference is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. And that information can be found again here if you click that little information button. Well, we're doing a course. Example course will be the title. We'll click next. And one caveat, just I want to, because it happened on the last, at the last session, but because I was using a different account, I got an unhandled fault. And that is simply reach out to Post if you get an unhandled fault. It's a quick fix. It's typically, there is a conflict between who the owner is and who the primary licensee is. We just need to fix that. That's typically the problem. It's a quick fix, give us a day or two to respond to that. But reach out to Post if you get that unhandled fault error. But we did not get that, so we're going to start our application process. It says the application is drafted, is not yet submitted. And the first item of business is clicking this action button. This walks you through everything that you need to add in order as you should add it. This isn't necessary, but it is there if you decided to change the name of your course, or you decided to change it to a conference, or the phone number wasn't correct. You go ahead and change that here, and then you would click save. Again, not necessary, but if you did need to change something, that's how you would go about doing that. Under action now, we'll add modified categories and credits. That's going to be our first order of business. And for this demonstration, we're going to be doing a general continuing education course. I clicked over, sorry if I scared you. We clicked over to the guide here. But we're going to be doing a general education application, and then we'll move on to a mandatory learning application. But I will click back over to this here. So what I did is I did add modified category and credits, and I've clicked next. It's asking what I'd like to do next. I want to add learning category and credits. I know it's already asked me to do this, but this, once you click it, triggers within the flow what we're going to add. So we've listed all the mandatory learning objectives are here. And then we have done our best to include the most frequent general CE courses that come through. Obviously, we can't capture them all, in which case you would do other. So let's say this is an other course, and report writing isn't included in there. So I'm doing a report writing course. That's how I would specify what the course is. And the course we're going to say is for 1 credit. And we'll do save and next. Now, if you have multiple topics within your course, you can certainly go ahead and add more. So we'll again do add learning category. And let's say we're doing a report writing course, but we're also covering some criminal law. And within that, we're doing 1, which again, 1 is 50 minutes of training as established in the rules. So this will end up being a 2-hour course. So now you see here populated at the bottom, we have the CE category, other, criminal law, and then the number of credits. just so you know, these don't do anything other than wrapping or clipping the text. Not necessary to do anything, something we'd like taken out as part of the enhancement, but again, we had to decide what was low priority and what was high priority. So now I need to choose another action. Let's say I want to, and those are either adding more learning categories or modifying the learning categories. So again, these are the categories and I want to modify them. So I've selected modify learning category. And that populates, if I want to back it up because that went just a little quick. So I want to modify the learning category. That immediately populates this selection screen. Which category is it that I want to modify? I'm going to modify other, which is my report writing. Now, for general CE courses, you don't want to check this box. This is for modifying learning and performance objectives. We'll get into this when we get to the mandatory learning course. But for here, really the only option is to whether I want to change the number of credits. So let's say that I want to change my number of credits for my report writing. We're actually going to do 2 hours. I would do save and next. And you'll see that it's now 2, and then my criminal law is 1. So I've added all the learning categories I want to add. I've modified anything I want to add. The next thing I need to do is back to draft. Back to draft is kind of your default. If you ever get lost within the system, find back to draft, hit save and next, and then work your way back to where you were. So we've added modified categories and credits. The next option is to remove categories and credits. So let's say I want to change my course and remove one of these categories from it. Now, keep in mind that removing a category is going to remove the credits, and it's also going to remove any of the course content. So if you have already gone through this process and you've added a course content, let's say to my criminal law, once you do this, it's a wholesale removal. So everything is removed from there. It's not going to save that. And it cannot be undone. It's completely purged. Even if you contact Post, we're not going to be able to find it. So be 100% certain that you do, in fact, want to remove this category. But I do. So I'm going to select criminal law. I'm going to select remove. And it has been removed from my course. And if at any point you want to check and see where you're at as far as building this, because I want to take a look and see and verify that it has been removed, you can go ahead and click on course summary on this tab. And if it did appear here, anywhere on course summary, I know it says do not click the back button or refresh your browser. This is a safe place within the process to go ahead and hit refresh. And we'll see that when we get to instructor qualifications, because those tend to, there's a little bit of lag on that. But if you did see criminal law still here, go ahead and click refresh and let the system catch up. Well, we'll see that our course information, we have our title, total number of credits is 2. It's a course. There are no mandatory learning categories. We have 2 general continuing education credits, and it's for other. You'll see down here that that modifier, as far as what the details were, doesn't show up here. There's not a column, but it does show down here if you want to double check that I did write report writing. But let's go back to the approval process. So we've removed our categories and credits. The next thing that we need to do is to add, modify course content. And add and modify is there because they are both something that you can, they're 2 actions that you can take, and we'll see that in just a minute. This course overview As immediately as I tried to do something else, it popped up red because this is a required field that needs to be populated. Within this field, this isn't your lesson plan. This is just simply a quick overview of what your course is, what the goals and objectives are. Just a really 10,000 level explanation, 10,000 foot level explanation of what your course is. So I'm going to add something from there. Now this has a 500 character limit, which as within this, as I added a timeline, does kind of exceed. So it is something we're going to look to see if we can get extended to a larger amount. And because it's not counting words, it's counting characters, which is any spaces. So if you run into that, till we can get that fixed, try to shorten up what your course overview is. But this is also a good place if you don't include it within your course content. It's also a good place to include your course timeline. And I have a sample course timeline here that I'm going to copy and paste. So I have the timeline in here, and again, this is a small box, but anywhere that you're adding course content at the bottom right, you can take this and you can and drag it down, and it will make that text field larger so that you don't have to scroll within it. You can see here I've outlined 0800 to 1000, and this is all just lorem ipsum because it's a whole lot easier, but 1000 to 1200, and then 12 to 1, we have lunch, again, meal breaks, meetings, award ceremonies, registrations. None of that is approved by, or credits aren't offered by Post for those. So we'll make sure we exclude that. And again, this is a 2-hour course, but I put this in here, or the one that I'm building right now is a 2-hour course, but I put this in here just as an example. This is kind of a short timeline of what a short timeline should look like. Just the major topics, what you're doing. This isn't your course outline. This is simply providing a high level detail of what it is that you're covering. So that's the course overview. We've added something in there, so now the system's happy. Now we want to take action on the categories below. Those categories below are either mandatory categories or general categories. We don't have any mandatory, but we do have a general. So we're taking action on our category. We'll click Add Modify Course Content. Once you do that, magically this drop-down box appears. And we're going to add, it's asking you what to add or modify course content for. If I had several categories in here, I would pick which one it is that I want to add the content to first. These have to be built one by one by one by one by one. So for each category, you'll go in and you'll add that course content. We'll select other, which is my report writing course. Again, nothing is done down here. This is all just simply informational, even though there are drop-down boxes, but ignore those. And we'll go ahead and click next. And this is letting you know here in red, courses and conferences longer than 4 hours require a timeline of the instructional content. So if I hadn't already added that within my course overview, or the character limit isn't allowing, the current character limit isn't allowing me to, this is where you want to add that. This box here, this text field has something like 36,000 characters, which is more than enough to add any course content that you may have. Anything, if you're hitting that, you're probably telling us too much. We appreciate the detail, but I think you're adding too much and making too much work for yourself. So another important point to note, and something that is a high priority for an enhancement, is that these text box, this text field, or none of these text fields accept any rich text. Rich text is going to be anything bold, anything italicized, any special characters, bullet points. It will take your bullet points, but it will just turn them into dashes. And any special formatting that you might have isn't going to be accepted either. So there are two options where you can create your lesson plan in plain text, or your lesson plan, go ahead and copy, but when you paste it as plain text. So here I'm going to go over to my example lesson plan. I have my course outline. And you can see here, I've just gone ahead and put these as dashes because it's going to do it anyway. But I'm going to copy. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this into this text field. So this is what your course outline, what your course lesson plan is going to look like once it gets in there. Again, like I said, any formatting. So if I had moved this over to be lined up under here, which if you're anal retentive like me, you would have done if it was an actual bullet point, but it's going to come across as this. So again, paste as plain text, and then make any corrections in here as needed. Please bear with us while we get that rich text field put in. I really want to have that put in here for you. It'll make it a whole lot easier for you and for us in order as far as readability, and for you to communicate your course lesson plan. But once we have that in there and I'm satisfied, go ahead and click next, and that will save. If we go back up to course summary, correction, if we go back up, course summary is going to give you just the summary. It's not going to give you what you've written. But if you go, and I keep going to the wrong place. But if you go to categories and content, here's my category, it's other. I scroll down, here's the course content. And if I want to view it, I can click on here, this CC, this course content, and I can view the course content that I've added. You'll also be able to view it another way, which we're going to get to here in just a second. But that's another option if you want to go in and play around. Now, once you get in here, I know you're not supposed to hit your back button, and you probably shouldn't, because I honestly think it takes you all the way back, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to go back to our application by clicking the APP number. And we're going to go back into adding and modifying course content. And let's say I had not finished adding everything. I had to back away. I had to get it. I had got called away, or something else came up, and I just had to save and get out of there. This is where you'd go in and you'd finish that. And within the, I'm going to click over to the guide here and catch us up to adding categories and content. You note here under 11, to save your lesson plan, whether finished or unfinished, you have to click next within there. There is no autosave feature. You must click next to save your application. We have this in red, bold, everything except for confetti, because we don't want you to lose anything that you've typed. We can't retrieve it. It's just simply gone. So if you're within that modifying screen and you're adding course content, before you've done, before you get called away, please hit that next button and don't just X out. If you X out, it's not going to save it unless you click next. But again, this is the add modifier. They're both the same. Right now, if I wanted to add more to this course, I could go ahead and add more and finish it up. Or if I wanted to take something out, etc. Any editing that you wanted to do. But again, always click that next button in order to save it. So on this add course content screen, I've done everything that I've needed to do. I've added my course overview. I've added and modified my course content, and I need to go back to the draft screen. So I'm content with all my categories. I'm content with all my course content. The next stage is to add, modify instructor qualifications. And I'm going to jump over again to the PowerPoint. Catch us up here. Adding and modifying instructor qualifications, you're going to enter their name. If there's multiple instructors, you do their name, follow a comma, space, the next name. One important thing that we really want to stress here is within this, please, please, please only upload instructor qualifications, be those certificates of completion, resumes, CV files. Please do not upload lesson plans, timelines, or any other course documents. Please, when you're going and building, you're writing your lesson plan within those text fields, say see attached. We're not going to see attached. It's going to be returned. We're not going to take a look at that. This is the process that we've developed, and this is the process that we're going to adhere to. So I think I made that clear. So let's skip over again to adding these instructors. Again, this provides you, please provide full names and comma delimited list. So we're going to add our instructors here. We have sample instructor and test instructor. And the next task that I need to do is to upload files. There's two options that I can do here. I can upload them from my computer, or this is a drop zone. If you have another window open or another screen, you can drag those, you can drop them right in here. To save you me clicking around a whole bunch of screens, we'll just do sample instructor qualifications. We'll click open. There's going to be a progress bar that appears. Once that hits green and the done button turns green and is available, you'll hit done. Now, this is where we don't want you to panic that it hasn't been uploaded. If you've clicked done, it has in fact been uploaded. You just need to click over to course summary. And if we scroll down, and I actually might not have hit save just like I did the last time. So let me go ahead and do that again. I did this at the last one and Sarah had to save me because I couldn't figure out why I didn't do it. Instructor, let's just do sample instructor. Done. And then once you've uploaded everything, hit save. That'll bring us back to the draft screen that this application is drafted, is not yet submitted. Now we can click on course summary to verify that what we have is what we need. So you'll see I had added, in this instance, before I failed to hit save, I wrote instructor, and then their qualifications are in notes and attachments down here. Let's go back to the application. So we've added everything. If we haven't added everything, if I do review and submit, it's going to give me an error and tell me what it is that I still need to accomplish before I can submit this course. So all of those previous actions are all required actions. The only action that isn't required is the changing the application name or adding comments anywhere. As you can see at the very bottom, this is not a required field, but everything else is a required field. So here's where I go ahead and take a look through sponsor name and number. That's the one that I logged into. It won't change. The post user, the alternate phone number, which should be over here. It must have jumped over somehow. Course conference title. It's the example course. You didn't type this. I didn't type this. Don't pay attention to this. This is what the system has tagged it as in order for it to keep track. This will not appear when the course is actually approved. Our credits, we wanted 2 for our report writing class. My course overview is listed here. Mandatory learning categories, there are none, so nothing is listed. Here is my course outline, my instructors. Learning assessment isn't required because it's not a mandatory learning course, so that didn't populate and it's not giving me an error. The sponsor agreement and affirmation hasn't changed from the PDF or paper version that you were previously filling out. But please read through that if you haven't. And then you'll go ahead and sign the application by typing your name. It automatically populates the date for you. You could add any comments that you deem relevant or necessary to the course. And then if you're satisfied, you'll go ahead and submit the course. You'll receive a notification that this application is pending, and pending is pending review by post. So you can rest assured that it has been delivered. This is your confirmation number, which is your APP or application number. That's going to appear on your dashboard under applications. And please allow a minimum of 15 business days for post to review your submission. That 10-day window is for you to submit the course. I just want to make it clear that that's not a 10-day window for us for post to, that post is required to review the course. Our submissions and our work queues, it varies, and right now, and it has been, we have a significant workload for all of us. So we appreciate your patience. Please allow us a minimum of 15 business days before reaching out to post. Again, you don't want to resubmit a course that you've already, the same course. You want to reach out to post at the previous inbox that you submitted, the email that you submitted courses to before, to inquire about the course. Upon review and approval, or if it's been returned for correction, you'll receive notification by email. So while during this portion here, I'll have one of my partners go ahead in that course that I've submitted, go ahead and approve it so that you can see what that looks like once it's been approved within my queue. To back out of here, this will take you all the way back to license dashboard. Clicking your sponsor number is going to take you back to your portal dashboard. I don't want to go back to the license dashboard in Minnesota e-licensing. I want to go back to my regular dashboard. And we'll see here if they haven't already approved it. My example course down here at the bottom is approved, pending now. So they have gone ahead and approved it. And this is skipping ahead to the end, but we'll go ahead and take a look at this before we take a break and move on to mandatory learning objective course. I would receive an email notification. We won't jump over to the email. but it would be an email saying your course has been approved but is awaiting sponsor confirmation. Please log into your dashboard, which you go under your applications, like we just did, this course applications, find the one that is approved pending, click on that app number. The application has been approved but is pending sponsor confirmation. Confirmation that you have reviewed the approved application is required in order for a course number to be issued. You're going to need to review your application approval under the course summary tab above. If that information is accurate, you're going to review this notice below, and then before confirming your review. If the application is inaccurate, or if you have questions about the approval, you have an option to select return to CE coordinator, but you'll need to provide your comments or questions. In this instance, perhaps I had asked for 2 credits, but I only had an hour and a half worth of content. Post doesn't round up, we round down. So we would have changed this to 1 credit if we hadn't already reached out to you. And your experience should be in the past. If we ever need to change anything on the course, we do try to be consistent and reach out and let you know, this is what you've applied for. This is what it can be approved for. If that is satisfactory, let us know. If not, make these changes, etc. But this is for you to be 100% sure and confirming that, yes, you know that this was only approved for general CE, or this was only approved for these mandatory learning categories. It's just a fail-safe and a way for us to be on the same page as far as the approval process, so no one has any surprises at the end. So I reviewed it. It's accurate. This notice here letting you know to perfect any private data and in accordance with post retention schedule, course content details will be permanently deleted once confirm review is selected and the application is finalized. On any of your course content, we don't retain, and that's for data retention and any UC issues, because this is all public data that can be requested. And we don't want any private data or any UC undercover concerns if there is an instructor that is undercover but is participating in a training as an instructor. Their names will not be listed, nor will any instructor qualifications be retained. So if you want to save this, you're going to need to scroll up to the top of the screen here and do a printable view and print this page. That way you have you have some sort of record of what it is that you submitted to post for later, if you need to refer to it later on. I'm not going to print this, so I'll close this window. Remember, by selecting confirm review, you've confirmed that you've reviewed the application and you understand that the course content details will be permanently deleted. This action cannot be undone. Once you select confirm review, the system is going to go in and it's going to delete all of that course content details, and it cannot be retrieved. So you'll go ahead. I'm satisfied with that. Let's say I printed off or saved as a PDF what I wanted to my course content, and I'll hit submit. Once I've hit submit, the application has been, now it's finally been approved and it's finalized. This is where you actually receive your course number. So this is the course number for that course that I just submitted. And if I want to, I can click go to course to review the information. The course overview is still retained. So again, please don't include any identifying or private data within there. Otherwise, if I go back to my sponsor license, I can see now that within my course index, the example course that I've just done is listed there. I know it was approved on July 31st. It expires July 31st, 2028. All right, a whole lot to go through there on general CE. So we'll pause there for questions, and then we'll take a short 5-minute break before moving into mandatory learning.
It looks like Alicia has a question. She has her hand raised. Alicia, what's your question?
Thank you. Could you repeat, you had showed us what was saved and available for like public view? So you said, so don't put any private information in there. What was that field?
Andy, can you go back to the overview section? She's asking about where she should not put private data.
Yep.
So the course overview section.
Just so you know, I can't hear because I have my volume turned down.
Mhm. Just give us 1 second here, Alicia, we'll get there for you.
Okay. So Alicia, it's right here within that approval process. Once you've selected add modify course content, it's that course overview with the brief synopsis of the course and its objectives, and where you can include the timeline if you're not including it within your course content. And again, as with all things, as we work through it, there's obviously some things that have popped up, and we're making a note that the course overview should likely be deleted as well in the event we don't want any private data that might have snuck in there. So thank you for the question.
Questions regarding general continuing education course approval. I did want to mention one of the questions that came up yet on Tuesday during our session was that once a course has been approved, can the content be changed? Can the name of the course be changed? Can the credits be changed, or the content be changed? And the short answer is no. So that's the reason that we ask you to review your course approval letter to make sure that everything there is accurate. And you have the opportunity to reach back out to post to let us know you want to make a change. If there is something that you have forgotten or missed in your lesson plan, you'll have to apply for a separate application. So this system doesn't allow us to go in and make, date changes, content changes, learning objective changes after the fact. I just wanted to put that out there so that you make sure you review your content thoroughly before you hit submit. And it doesn't seem like there's any other questions, Angie, so I think we can move forward.
Okay, well, let's move forward with a break because we're all adult learners and likely need a restroom break or just to get up and stretch or get some coffee. So I have 11:25. Let's resume again at 11:30 and we'll see you then. Thank you. All right, it's 11:30. I switched over because Michelle and I are actually sharing an office and we want to avoid any reverb. Um, Jennifer, I see you're on camera. If you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So let me get my screen to the one that I want. All right. And away we go. All right. So mandatory learning. How to build a mandatory learning objective course. Just a brief overview within the guide for required mandatory learning for your reference. It spells it out there or lists it out there for you for officer wellness because you get a lot of questions. Not required for renewal until those renewing in 2027. So if your license is, if you are renewing your peace officer license in 2027, you will need officer wellness. And then anyone after any renewal after 2027 will require that minimum of 1 credit in officer wellness. In-service use of force training. And we had this question. It is not either statutorily nor within rule, like all the other mandatory learning objectives. It has no minimum credit amount. Now, a 1 credit course covering use of force A through K would be a 1-hour course and is completely unfeasible and would not be approved by post. And 2, just my suggestion, it's probably not best for your agency to have only 1 credit in use of force annually. Again, that is the one that is required on an annual basis, calendar year, so January 1st till December 31st. Typically, agencies do much more than 1 credit. I've yet to see an agency do less or just do only 1 credit. And it would be impossible to cover all of A through K in just 1 hour. Emergency vehicle operations courses, they're required every 5 years. 8 credits are required. A minimum of those, minimum of four credits are required spent performing in-vehicle training. And that, I just want to clarify, that is in an actual vehicle on an actual track, getting car sick, which I didn't at the beginning, but once I hit 40, apparently getting car sick was a thing. So you get to get car sick and have to be out there. Simulators, etc., will not qualify for EVOC. School resource officer is only required for peace officers assigned as an SRO, and those must be completed every 3 years. And a timeline there as far as, because that was recently introduced, as far as when you have to have at least the basic or a refresher is listed there. So our mandatory learning objective application, it's going to be the same. And I won't have you bear, at least it's small on my screen, but I won't bear with you or make you bear having to go through the PowerPoint because that's not fun for anybody. But just to start here, the start in changing a new application is the same as it was for general CE. Where we start to get into the changes and where we diverge from a general CE application is when we select our categories and selecting mandatory MLOs. So let's jump over. And while I jumped over, it just dawned on me, if you're not using Google Chrome, it works the best with this CE portal.
If you don't have Chrome, I'm not endorsing it. I'm not getting any kickbacks, but Chrome does work best. And again, if you ever encounter an unhandled fault or something isn't working, go ahead, clear your browser history, or close everything, clear your browser history, clear your cache, and then log back in. And 9 times out of 10, that will solve the issue, as it does with every other program. That cache just gets too large and the computer gets confused. But that's my little aside. So we're going to go ahead and build a mandatory learning objective course. Again, we always start going to course applications. We'll go to next to start that new course. And I'd really like to find out why my phone number keeps jumping over here. So we'll log that one as something that needs to be taken a look at. But we're going to go ahead and title this as Demonstration MLO Course. Again, selecting the type, course or conference, clicking next. And this brings us to our draft screen. This is our home screen for the drafting process. So this application is not drafted, not yet submitted. Yep, we know, because we need to get started. We're not going to change anything on the application information. We're going to add and modify those categories and credits. A very kind, what would you like to do next? I'd like to add learning categories. And we're going to add, in this instance, we're going to do a use of force course, because this one has a couple caveats that I want to demonstrate. So we're going to do this as a 4-credit course. And now you can see that we've diverged from that general CE. It's the system has recognized you've selected use of force. Okay, use of force is the category. What learning objectives are you going to be doing? Should be familiar. Use of force has A through K. So I need to select, first of all, what those learning objectives are. There's a description taken verbatim from the learning objective within those MLOs. If you don't have it handy or open on another screen. So you'd go ahead and select, we're going to do A on this course. We're going to do E. And we're going to do G. And because I want to demonstrate a couple things, we'll do K as well, but then we'll go ahead and remove these because it'll be a big time saver as we get to doing the course content. Now I've selected the learning objectives. The system wants to know, okay, what are those performance objectives that you're going to be covering? So now it's going to take me first through A alphabetically. Sometimes for some reason, it might do it backwards. I don't know why. Bear with it. Again, one of those low-level bugs that we still need to kind of get fixed, but low priority. So use of force, I'm just covering use of force A1. And you'll see that there's A1 all the way down through 4, which has some sub 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, 4E, 5 and 6. If you get, because sometimes as we're building these, it looks the same on our end as currently as we're entering these for you and you're submitting in the current process. It gets frustrating. You just kind of scroll your actual screen down and then you can scroll within this box here. But we've selected A1. Now it's going to take a look at and see what the next one is. And E was the next one that I selected, which is intermediate force weapons. And I want to pause to touch on that. It says, do not pause or leave this tab before completing all screens. I I don't know if that's similar to dividing by zero and a portal will open, but it may not save. I just highly suggest completing all the screens before you do anything. So for this one, it's going to list the most common intermediate force weapons with the description on each of these, which is pretty much the same for each of them. So we have E1 baton, E1 chemical aerosols, and that's because there's E and then there's 1 and 2. And we had to parcel this out. This was the most efficient way to do this. So if the course is a baton, a chemical aerosol, impact munitions, so that think less lethal shotgun, 40 millimeter impact rounds, etc. Anything that's an impact weapon. Other intermediate weapon, anything, any special gadget that's developed or that isn't included here, so such as bowler wrap, should fall under other intermediate weapon. We've included pepper ball as a new option, and then taser. And then if we're doing E2, which is the impact of low light and adverse weather conditions on the use of those weapons, we would select that as well. For time purposes, we're just going to select E1 taser, and we'll do save and next. The next one, and this is where things are a little different, use of force G. This is handgun qualification. And note that G, H1, which is H1 shotgun, H2 rifle, are qualification courses of fire. So if you're going out and you are doing a 200 round shoot, but you're doing moving between barricades, you're plinking steel targets, you're doing a bunch of fun stuff, but it isn't a qualification course, that's going to fall under general CE, under firearms non-mandatory. It has to be a qualification course of fire consisting of what's listed here on the descriptions. So you don't get to go in and select the performance objectives because you have to have all of them in order for POST to approve that course. So we select G. And then K is also another learning objective that as it lists or as it describes within the MLO, that all of these performance objectives have to be covered in order for POST to approve the course. We wanted to be able to provide an explanation rather than having K 1 through 6 and then have a massive description here. But I can't sneak in and just do K1 and then hit save and next. It's going to slap me on the hand and tell me that no, you need to do all of them. If I really like clicking, I can go through and select all these. Otherwise, to avoid any cramps, go ahead and select this little box next to learning objective. That'll select all of them for you. You'll click save and next. Now I've gone through, I've selected my learning objectives that I want. I've added the performance objectives for each of those learning objectives that are covered in my course. So I'm back to the learning objective and categories, learning objective categories and credit screen. Now here is where I could go in and add a learning category. Let's say we are going out and we're going to do an hour of some fun shooting, but it's not anything that's a qualification course. I go ahead and select firearms general CE. We'll do 1 credit because it's just an hour. And we do save and next. And then I'll populate down here under general continuing education. Now, the other option is to modify learning category, credits, learning objectives, and performance objectives. And this is where we get to select that little box that we didn't do under general CE. On this one, I just want to cut over quick to the user guide, because it took me a while when creating this guide to kind of map out exactly how this works. And sorry if I am making anyone's eyes go crazy, but I wanted to get to the right slide. So modifying, really only 4 things that you're doing. It's not a required process. If you've done everything the way that you want it the first time, you're good to go. But if you do need to go in and modify something, there are really only 4 actions that you're performing. You're adding learning objectives, or you're adding performance objectives, or you're removing learning objectives, or removing performance objectives. Now, when you get really good at this, you can perform a lot of this. You don't have to go through, add the learning objective, back out, okay, do this, do that. You can do multiple actions simultaneously until you're proficient in this. I suggest just kind of sticking to the one thing at a time. Or if you catch on really quick, please go ahead and have at it. Within the guide here, you can just click there and I'll take you to that specific page. But this, at least for me, was a way to just kind of, okay, what is it actually that we're able to do, and how does the flow map? And I actually mapped it, and it's really wild, but it does sort of make sense, and we'll see that in a second. So we'll cut back over then to our learning objective categories and credits. And I'm going to, this part, I'm going to try to slow down a little bit. I know I'm kind of breezing through, but this does get to be a little goofy. Once you understand how it works, it'll become second nature. But I selected modified learning category credits. Which one do I want to modify? I want to do the use of force one. In that case, because it's a mandatory, I select this box. Now it's always going to ask you to verify how many credits you want. I still want 4. If you questioned how many you added before, it's right underneath there. I'll go ahead and select 4 again. Now, if I was only changing the credits, then that would be different. I wouldn't have selected that checkbox because I don't need to modify any of these things unless I've added new things, performance or learning objectives to the course, if that makes sense. So the first one is the adding learning objectives. We're going to do these one at a time and not multiple. Again, we don't want to pause or leave this tab before completing all the screens. If you don't need to do an action, you're just going to go ahead and click Save and Next, because it's going to offer all of the options as you go through it. But if you don't need to do that action, you just hit Save and Next. Also, if you got into this and you didn't mean to, just keep clicking Save and Next until you exit out of it. So I do want to modify learning objectives for use of force. So I'm going to check this box to add or remove learning objectives. So in this case, it's going to list, these are everything that I hadn't previously selected. I didn't select B, C, D, F, H, I, or J. So I want to add D to this course, which is proficiency with unarmed control measures. We're not doing removing right now, so we're just going to put our blinders on and remove and ignore that. And we'll go down to hit Save and Next. Now it's going to take me to remove performance objectives. I don't want to remove performance objectives right now, so I'll hit Save and Next. Do I want to add performance objectives for use of force E? No, I'm happy with it. I already selected. Now it brings me to D, which I had previously, or which I just added, and it's asking, what are you doing? So let's say we're doing handcuffing in this course. So I'm going to select D1A. I'd select it and hit save and next. Again, this is where it kind of gets out of order, but just kind of pay attention to what screen that you're on. Do I want to add performance objectives for A? No, I do not. We're just staying with that one. All my changes are complete. Excellent. Hit next. So now if I were to go through, and I don't want to take you and confuse you, but you can go in and see. And sometimes I always forget where they are. You can see use of force. I now have A, D, E, G, K, and that was under the course summary. I can further see the specific performance objectives under categories and content, but you got to click in, and then the only way to back out is to go all the way back to the applications. But if you just kind of keep scrolling down here, it'll show use of force A, A1. I have D, I have D1. So all of my performance objectives that I'd previously selected are here, including my general CE. Let's go back to the approval process. And we'll go back into modify learning categories. We're going to modify our use of force. We want to check this box to modify the learning performance objectives. Still going with 4 credits. So now we're going to go into our next is removing the learning objective. Again, it doesn't know, it's giving you the option to add and to remove on the same screen. So now it's asking, what do you want to remove? Now, what's important, again, just as previously when you're removing under general CE, if you remove a learning objective, it's going to take out any course content that you have for that learning objective as well. And that's a little different. It's not just in GCE. You'll see how that's built out when we do course content. But it's going to take all of that out along with everything. So let's remove, in order for the interest of time, we'll remove K, E, and A. Do save and next. Taking you through again, do you want to remove performance objectives for use of force? The only one that you can remove, G is still there. Don't panic. It's not populating because you can't remove any performance objectives for G. They're all required. So the only one that's still available is D. I don't want to remove that. Uncheck that box. Save and next. It's saying, are you 100% sure you don't want to add some more? It's quite the salesman, very pushy, but I'm going to go ahead and say no. I just want the handcuffing. Your changes are saved. So now I just have, if I go to that course summary, again, that course summary is a safe place to go ahead and refresh, because we can see here that that E, K, and A are still there. So if I hit refresh, perhaps I didn't select A, as I thought I did. Let's go back in there because I felt like I did it, but apparently I did not. Okay, I did. It's just taking a little while to catch up. So don't hit the panic button. It will catch up. eventually. All right. So now let's go, that's removing the learning objectives. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add performance objectives. Again, we're working on use of force. Modify learning objectives for use of force. We would skip this. I just want to check something here and figure out why it is still populating A and it's not giving me the option to do A. We'll figure that one out. We're not removing any performance objectives. Not adding any performance objectives for use of force E because it shouldn't be there to begin with. Not adding anything for A. Bear with me here while we've hit just a little bit of a snag. I'm going to do here, because it's not doing what I want, is go to the back to draft screen. Go to course summary. All right. So as you can see, it's listed them up here. But down here, I have my D1, D, D1, G, my G1. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know why, other than I don't think the system has completely caught up yet. But one thing that we can do to demonstrate, just to kind of fix this, is to skip ahead. And we're just going to go to remove categories and credits. Now, this is a wholesale, I'm removing everything. All learning objectives, performance objectives, anything related to use of force, we're going to take out. And note that this action cannot be undone. Now we're going to go up. And now I'm adding, as I previously did, so that we can get back in to modify. And we had D and we had G that we initially wanted before it insisted that the other ones were still there. And I'm sure one of my partners here will log that to take a look at as to why it's doing that. Again, not all systems are perfect at launch, but we'll get that squared away. So we're going back into modifying the learning categories, use of force, and the part that we're on right now to catch everyone back up to speed and myself is adding performance objectives. Again, we want to check that box, go to save and next. I don't want to modify the learning objectives. I don't want to remove any performance objectives. Now, use of force D, 1A is I had already selected. So let's say I want to also include 1B. Save and next. It's not going to jump to G because there's nothing to remove. They all have to be in there. And so I click next. And if I go to my course summary, and then I briefly panic because it's not there, I hit refresh. And to be honest, I talked about clearing my cache. That's probably what I need to do, and that's why it's giving me this error. But now you can see D1B has populated. So we'll click back over here to the approval process. And the next action of those 4 is removing performance objectives. Really insistent about whether or not I want to change the credits. Don't want to modify learning objectives, but I do in fact want to remove performance objectives. So I changed my mind. I'm not including D1B. Save and next. Do you want to add anything? Really a hard sell. No, I don't. But thank you. Save and next. Next to complete. So go up, verify, wait a couple seconds, hit reload. Okay, I only have D1A and G listed on here. These are listed just because they're basically headers for these ones here. So this is what you want to pay attention to of what you've listed under D1A and G1 and G1, 2, 3, 4. So we've already gone over, we had to skip ahead and remove categories and credits, but just to remind you that this is a full sale removal. For time purposes, we're going to take out the firearms general CE. We'll just, adding that is just the same as it was under general courses. You just add all that same information that we previously did. So we'll remove firearms. So now we only have a use of force course. So now we're going to add modify course content. Again, you'll have to add your course overview. And I'm going to go to my example lesson plan. Grab my course overview here. Plop that in there. Now, when it comes to mandatory courses, you'll see that it's going to be a little difficult to add a timeline because you might have a performance objective that you're only allocating 10, 15 minutes to because it's just a discussion topic. We don't need that. Neither you should have to take the time to spell that out for us. So it's kind of difficult to do a timeline there. And that, again, is one of those high priority enhancements that we want to make. So for MLO courses, we really highly encourage the best way to do that is to add your timeline within this course overview to make things a little more simplistic and not have you banging your head against the wall thinking that you have to allocate or account for 15, 20 minutes on one thing. So we'll go ahead and we'll add our timeline to the course here, to the course overview. All right, so we've satisfied the course overview. We've added our course timeline for this mandatory learning objective course. We need to take action on the categories below, which are our use of force D and use of force G. And the first one we're going to do is use of force D. Now, as previously indicated, this is a standardized format. One to help assist you in how to communicate your instructional content to post. And it's helpful for us because we see on any given day, if I see 5 use of force courses, I see 5 different use of force lesson plans laid out completely differently, which is obviously how it would be. All agencies are different. People are different on how they think and how they like to organize things. But kind of like Joe Friday, we just need the facts. We just need to know for D1A, what is it specifically that you're doing? And for this instance, it's demonstrating proficiency in handcuffing from prone, standing, and kneeling. So what we'd want to see here is what it is that you're instructing, what it is that those officers are performing in the class, and it should include prone handcuffing, standing handcuffing, and kneeling handcuffing, and any other restraining devices. So if you use, for the lack, because I've completely blanked on what they're called because it's been a long time since I used them, but the zip tie type restraints, if you use those, okay, what are you doing with those? How are you handcuffing, prone, standing, and kneeling? That's the kind of information that you want to add. You can add how to cut those off. That's not a mandatory learning objective. There's nothing that covers how to remove zip tie handcuffs. But if you want to include it, you certainly can, but you can cherry pick that from the lesson plan that you've written and just include what you're doing here. So I'm going to cut over to my example lesson plan. And let's just say that, you know, this is what, this is my course content for handcuffing techniques. Here's what they're doing for standing. It'd obviously be a little longer than that. Here's what they're doing for kneeling. Here's what they're doing for prone. Satisfied with that, I hit next. Takes me back to the add course content draft screen. Add modified course content. And I know this seems redundant, but this gives you the ability to decide what it is that you're doing and which one that you're doing. So now we're going to add our course content for G, which is our handgun qualification. And you'll see down here before I continue, your mandatory learning objective categories table, you'll see that now that I've added something, it's in a draft pending. It tells me that something has been added to that course. Use of force G, we haven't started, but we're just about to. This is important because if maybe multiple delegates are working on the same course, or if the primary or someone else wants to go in and see, okay, how far are we on drafting this course? They can go ahead and see what the status is. Well, it's drafted, or it's not started, not started, not started, not started. And, you know, now that person's no longer a delegate and they've been banished to the property room until they can get things together. But anyway, we're going to add our content for use of force G. Now, like I said, all of the performance objectives are required. And just as I said before, we want it to be very similar to Joe Friday, and just give me the facts. So this is kind of what we would like to see for your handgun qualification course of fire. All the other stuff where, you know, is important for you and should be, you know, you're going to have this many instructors. Everyone's wearing their vests. We're going to do this. There's going to be this, all this information that is good for you to have for yourself and for any other instructors, and I'm sure your department has, is actually extraneous for post, because we're just looking to see, are you meeting what is established in those mandatory learning objectives? And for the course and for the instance of handgun qualification, my brain immediately locks into, do they have 50 rounds? Do they have a qualification score or minimum proficiency score? And is their course of fire from short, medium, long range? Does it include strong hand, weak hand, or strong hand, support hand? However you refer to it. And are they shooting from cover? And as long as those are all within there, then we're good to go. So in this, this would be a good way to do this because we don't have the rich text. Total rounds, 50. Please don't make me go through and do the math, me or Michelle or Sarah, and add this up, because math is not my strong suit. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in right now. So give me the total number of rounds. I'm going to trust that all those rounds are there. But we see we have 3 yards, 3 rounds, or 3 yards, 5 rounds from the holster, 3 yards, 5 rounds offhand only from the ready position. And then we have transition. There's dominant hand, there's shooting from cover there at 10 rounds. And then they have the long distance at 15 and 25 yards. I take a look at this immediately. It's easy. All the extraneous information, again, important for you, but not important for us to make sure that it's meeting those minimum qualifications for the mandatory learning objective. This is what you'd want to add. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to cut back over. We'll kind of expand this here, and it even says here, provide your course of fire below. We'll paste it. And there it is there. Total rounds, 50, qualification, the entire course of fire. And that's all that's required for post to look at in order to approve the course. One thing, I guess, as I look at this, including in here that a reload. So maybe after 5 yards, you do an administrative. Typing is hard. Administrative reload, or perhaps after so many rounds, then they're doing a tactical reload. Also including in here, which would fall under F if you're including learning objective F. Perhaps after this here, you had included a couple dummy rounds. So you would add in malfunction, clearing. Clear malfunction. And we're just looking for clear malfunction. If you want to go ahead and, the most feared, the stovepipe malfunction, which requires you to do everything but bang your handgun against a rock, though sometimes does work. You can include that in there. But reloading techniques, I see that. Yep, there's a reload. All of that is there. Fantastic. And on post end, that's what I need to know to approve that course. So D is in pending, G is in pending. It's all drafted. I'm happy with it. If I wanted to, I could go back in and add more content. Again, just to reiterate, and it's included in the MLO. in the guide, that, let me get there. In fact, let me get there without, sending anyone into a tailspin, having to watch me, try to scroll through here. Again, just to reiterate, there is no autosave feature. You have to click next to save your application. So even if you're not done with it, click next to be done, to save that, so you can come back, and add more to it. But I'm satisfied here. So I want to go ahead and I want to hit back to draft. Clicking next, I know it kind of seems, but now it wants you to select a choice. I don't want to do that. I want to go back to the draft screen. So I've added my course content. Now we're going to adding instructor qualifications like we previously did. Same thing for general continuing education, either upload or drop them. Upload the file. Wait till that hits done. I'll be smart this time and hit save. We've uploaded our instructor qualifications. What's the next thing we need? Modify our learning assessment. In here, what are we doing? In progress evaluations or exams, final evaluations or exams, demonstrated proficiency, qualification, or other. We have our handcuffing there, so we're doing in progress evaluations, making sure that they pass. Demonstrated proficiency or qualification, demonstrated proficiency with the handcuffing, demonstrated proficiency with the handgun, and qualification with the handgun. So we'll select those two. We'll click save. I've added everything. If I've done everything right, I can click review and submit. If it wasn't able to do that, it would have kicked you back and said, you need to add this here. So you'd go back in, follow the steps to do that. Review my course. All of my course content is there for me to review. If none of this was correct, I'd go ahead and I'd hit previous. Oh, that's not going to do it. It still wants that signature is required field. Computers are silly. It thinks, well, I have to have this before I can do anything. Okay, well, sir, it's okay. We can move on. We can go back without the signature, but it wants it. So toss a signature in there. If none of this is right and you need to back out, hit previous, and that'll bring you back. Add any comments that are relevant to the course, and then go ahead and I'd hit submit. Same as before, the application is pending. There's your app number to refer to if you need to with post. That would be the one that you provide us. If you're inquiring, if it's been more than 15 business days, you still haven't heard anything, emailing the general inbox. And I have app number. Here's my app number. Can I get the status? That'll be forwarded to whoever has it. And we can give you an update probably through the chatter function. So that is the mandatory learning objective course application. We'll pause there before moving on to just two things before I turn it over. Two quick things, I promise, before I turn it over to Sarah. So any questions on the MLO process? Again, this isn't a last call. It isn't a last call. So if you do have them at the end, please certainly bring them up. We'll go to the messaging function. So this message function, it does say that only post staff can initiate. You are initiating it once you write a comment. You can't, if it's not within the actual draft of a course, you can't just message us and say, I think you're a ding dong. it has to be within, I mean, I guess you could do that within your course application, but that's not very nice. But this is how we will communicate. You'll get a notification that I have posted a message, or Michelle or Sarah. And I get a note, we get a notification that you've posted a message in this app. And that's when we go in and take a look. And that's when you would say, yep, I've made the changes. Please take a look at this part within the within the course lesson plan. The application evaluation, we took a look at that when we did accepting the pending review with the general CE. Just note that return to CE coordinator, please provide some detailed comments or questions, something that we can actually take action on and help you with. If an application is returned for correction, denied, or canceled, you'll receive an email notification. You go back in and you'll look in that chatter function or messaging function in order to see what it is that needs to be changed. And you have 30 calendar days to do that before it's deleted. So, but we did the application evaluation before. Does anyone have any questions on that weren't answered during the general continuing education application portion? Okay. You don't see any questions, so that is enough from me. I am going to turn it over to Sarah, who is much more versed in affidavits of attendance. So thank you very much for bearing along with me. And again, if you have questions that pop up, please feel free at the end to bring those up. So Sarah, with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and let you take over.
Sounds good. Let me get my screen shared with you guys here and we can get into the affidavits. I'm not going to share the guide because I feel like affidavits are a lot easier to see when you're walking through the process, how it's going to work. But there is a section starting on page, I think 105 of the guide to walk you through this as well. So once you are logged into your sponsor portal, landing page here is the course index that Andy went over, listing all of your approved courses. To start an affidavit application, you will just go to the affidavits of attendance tab. Anything unsubmitted will be canceled if not submitted within 30 days. Anything that we send back to you for corrections, if we don't hear from you, we're just going to approve it as is at that 30-day mark. And if you plan on doing a bulk upload, so uploading your affidavits via spreadsheet, there is a very specific template you need to use, and you can download that template using the link here. This is also found on our website as well as later on in the application here. But you go ahead and hit next to start your application. This is just going to autofill your phone number from your contact page that you're logged in as. Any updates you need to make, you can make right here to your phone number. That's really about the only thing you can update here. And then once we get into the application here, this submission sections down here is just going to show any previously submitted applications and what the status of them is. But there we go. So from the approval process tab here, it's going to be very similar to that draft screen of the course application, just with a lot fewer options. So the first option you have available to you is to change the applicant information. Only thing you can change at this time is just your phone number. So if you start it and then realize, whoops, that wasn't actually my current contact information, you can go in and hit update that. Next to save it, previous to just go back to the tab, to the drop screen here. And then we'll get into adding adding attendees to the application. So add attendees, what would you like to do next? You're gonna have to add attendees. And then this is where you will select the method of attendees. So there's gonna be two methods, the manual method and then the bulk upload method. First, we'll go through the manual method here. This is where you'll just type in the course number that was taught and that you want these people to have credit underneath. Type it in, it must match exactly what is written on your course approval letter. So if you have make sure there's all 4 zeros or everything, it's a 5-digit sponsor number. If you have a sponsor number that's a bunch of zeros with just 1 digit at the end, you need to make sure you include all 5 of those or all 4 of those zeros. Otherwise, it's not going to pull the course correctly. You go ahead and hit next. This will be a spot here where you can verify that this is the course you want to be entering the affidavit under, as well as what the approval dates are for the course. This next spot here is where you will choose what date it was started on and ended on. So we're going to say that this course happened last Friday on the 25th. And then this is where you will enter the first and last name and license number of the officers who took the course. It's important to note that this information must match exactly what is written or what is on the officer's license. If something is capitalized on the license and you type it not capitalized here, it's not going to work. If, for example, this one here, the officer's license is in our system as test license and not test licensee. So it's going to error out. It wants to be exact to include hyphens, apostrophes, capitalization. It's very specific. So make sure you are pulling exactly what is on the officer's license. Otherwise, the credit will not be added. And you'll just go through and just continue doing this for everybody that you want to get credit for the course. If you hit next and you're like, oops, I'm actually done adding people, I don't want anyone else to get credit for this, but you're already on this page here. We don't have a previous button, but you can just check this box here and hit next, and it'll bring you back to the draft screen. Once you're all done, you can go ahead and hit save, next, and it'll bring you back to the draft screen. At this point, you can go ahead and view the attendees tab up at the top here. This will show the status of everyone who you have added to your application at this time. Just give you a chance to review it all before you get to that review and submit tab. And then we can go over the bulk method here as well. So for bulk, it's gonna be the same way you started with the manual entries. You're gonna go ahead, add attendees, add additional attendees, and then you can select the bulk option. This is another option here for you to download that template. It needs to follow this very specific template here. So first name, last name, license number, course number, start date, end date. It needs to go in that order. Otherwise, it's not going to read the information correctly. Very similar to with the manual method is this information needs to match what is on the license. It needs to be in the month, date, year, or format. So if you see that it's pulling a different format, just make sure you go ahead and change the format of the cells to that custom format, just to make sure everything processes and uploads correctly into our system. Go ahead and save it. It needs to be saved as a CSV comma delimited file for the file to read. I'll also get that update saved there, and then we can go ahead and enter it. Here you can either select the file from the your computer, or you can do a drag and drop method, whatever is going to work best for you. And we'll just get that uploaded in here. Maybe. Apologize me being struggling with my computer here just a little bit. Drag and drop. It does need to fall exactly in this box here. This entire field isn't available for you to drag and drop. But if you hit it where it says or drop files, that will pull the file in there. Once the file's uploaded, hit the import button. There's 4 rows. I had 4 names on there, so looks like the data imported correctly, and then you go ahead and hit next. If there are any errors on your file, so if any names didn't match, if the 4 or 5 main errors that you're going to see are if the name doesn't match exactly what's on their license, if the date attended falls outside the course approval dates, if the officer already has received credit for the course, because they can't get credit for the same course on the same date twice. Again, ear for that. If it's outside the officer's license date, so if they took something before their license was issued, or if you accidentally select or type in a date in the future. Those are the 5 kind of main errors you'll see come through. But then go ahead and check the attendees tab. Give it a refresh, a minute or two, just for that process to load, and make sure that it's processing. We'll see now it looks like, yep, all 5 people, the 1 manual method that we did, and then the 4 bulk uploads are all showing on here. And so those are the 2 different methods for uploading attendees. If you have somebody listed on an affidavit that you then realize didn't fully complete the course or didn't complete it to standard, you are able to remove them before you submit that affidavit. So back to that draft page here, we'll hit the remove attendees next, and then just select whoever you want to remove. So this person is the same license number and they are showing twice, but they were on 2 different days. So if the officer can take the same course twice, as long as they have 2 different start and end dates, days of attendance, it's okay for them to be on there twice, just as long as it's different days. But we'll remove one of them. And then go here, you'll see they've fallen off, and now we only have 4 officers listed on this affidavit. Once you are happy that you have everybody uploaded here, we'll go ahead and hit that review and submit option. One last chance to verify that everybody here is who you want to get credit. This sponsor affirmation section should look very familiar to all of you. It is the exact same that is on the bottom of that PDF application or affidavit you have been currently submitting. So box 1 is required for everyone, for all affidavits. It's just saying that the information is correct and that these officers did complete the course and are supposed to be receiving the credits listed here. Options 2 and 3 are going to be for the mandatory learning objective courses approved after August 26, 2023. So those are saying that we did a learning assessment as we told Post we were going to, and that the learning assessment showed that the course is meeting the mandatory learning objectives that it was approved for. This course here, there is a little checkbox that'll pop up here if your course is approved for mandatory learning. This one wasn't. We don't need to worry about those 2 boxes there. We'll go ahead and sign our name. If you have any questions about the affidavit, or if you want Post to double check something with one of the attendees, you can check this box here to leave a comment for the CE coordinator, but it's not required. And then you'll go ahead and hit submit. The application will then be submitted. The process will, it usually takes about a day or 2 for the process to load and for those credits to be applied onto the officer's accounts. Once they are applied, you will get an email saying the application was approved, but it'll go to a submitted status. If you look at the attendees, you'll see that they're all now in a pending status. So they're working, our system is working through the process of getting the credits applied. Once everybody has credits, it'll change to that approved status, and you'll be good to go. If you submit it and then find a second page of the affidavits on your desk that you missed when you first did it, we aren't able to add more to this affidavit. But we can go back and just start a new affidavit, add that second page of the attendees, and get another one submitted. No big deal. And that is really affidavits in a nutshell. Are there any questions?
Sarah, one question we have is, what is the date format for bulk upload? Is it 00-00-000, or is it 0-00-000?
It's going to be the first one. So it's month, date, year.
Okay.
And it's not a date option when you go into those formatting fields. You have to go to the custom field and edit it to be that. But sometimes if you see a weird message when you're trying to import it there, that's going to be the most common one, is that needs to be that first format in the comment there.
Okay. The next question is, I think you were talking about it, but I missed it. There will be no need for a learning assessment affirmation PDFs if loading with the CSV.
Nope, so that'll cover when you are in that review and submit section, those same 3 checkboxes that are on that learning assessment affirmation are those last 3 checkboxes before the review and submit. So that will cover what was previously in that PDF.
I don't see any other questions, Sarah. Thank you. So this concludes our training. We want to thank everybody for their time and attention. If you have any other questions right now, we'd be happy to answer anything that you have. While I see if anything populates here on my screen, I will say that we will have a frequently asked questions document uploaded on our website. I previously stated that that would be uploaded by Friday. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get that done by Friday afternoon, so I would look for that sometime midday on Monday. Additionally, if you have follow-up questions or concerns, you can certainly reach out to me or anybody on staff. We're happy to answer any questions you might have via email. The other thing I will mention is that this system is live. Please go in and use it. Please start submitting your course content through the portal as well as your affidavits of attendance. We will still take PDF applications and affidavits until September 1st. But once September 1st hits, you're going to have to do everything in the portal. So another question we have is, sorry if we missed it, but our instructor evaluations required. So I guess my question, Kristen, is are you talking about the instructor evaluations for people who are taking the course and evaluating you and the course content, or are you talking about the requirement for the learning assessment to ensure that the course content being covered is covering all of the mandatory learning objectives? We don't need to see the instructor evaluation. Very good. Any other questions? I don't see any. So thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. We know your time is important, and we thank you for your time today. Again, if you have any other questions, please reach out to any one of us here at Post. We're happy to help. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.